take on the darkness, stare down deceit. Murder in the headlines, justice in the beat. From cold case whispers to killers in disguise, we rip off the mask, expose all the lies. Facts like bullets reload and deliver. Truth cuts deep like a blade in a river. Corruption shakes when the mic goes live. We dig where others won't survive. Gears rolling through the smoke. Truth hits hard, no time for a joke. Deceit, murder, we name every name. No restraint, no shame, just flame. Locked on the case, we investigate.
This is 12-gauge investigative. Let's jump
you'll
in.
ever need 12-gauge investigate. We make them bleed. No games, no censors, just truth. Justice is loud, and we're the sound. This is 12-gauge investigative. Dark. Another one gone, no feeling, no heart. They don't blink, don't flinch, just breathe in sin with a blade in their grip. Walking through the shadows, hear the silent scream. Another face on the wall, just a part of the scheme. No empathy, no soul, just a code they trust. With a blade in hand, they turn bone into dust. Prowling like wolves when the city's asleep. Talking murder with a smirk and the trauma runs deep. They ain't broken, they're built to destroy. No love, no past, just blood like a toy.
Killers with no conscience, still so cold. Creeping in the dark where the stories unfold. Knives in the night, no mercy inside. They smile while the innocent bleed and die.
Yeah. No conscience, no light in their eyes. These streets whisper names never said out loud. Victims in chalk lines, truth lost in the crowd. Mask off never cause they wear their lies. In the alley of the damned where the final breath dies. See the blade flash like a ghost in the mist. Another mother crying for the son she missed. They ain't monsters, they're real, they're walking in skin. Look you in the eye while committing the sin. They breathe deceit, feed off the fear. No tomorrow, no guilt, just voices they hear. In the mirror there's a face that don't reflect. Just a killer in the frame with a soul unchecked.
Killers with no conscience, still so cold. Creeping in the dark where the stories unfold. Knives in the night, no mercy inside. They smile while the innocent bleed and die.
No shame, no past, just silence and cries. Just silence and cries.
The blade don't lie, but the silence does. No justice, just shadows soaked in blood. True crime, not fiction, it's real in the streets.
Pray you never meet the ones who never weep.
All right. How's everybody doing on this Wednesday night? Hope everybody doing all right. My name's 12-gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12-gauge Investigative. You know, tonight I was going to do a little bit of Wednesday stuff, but I decided to do a little bit of different direction. Not because of any other reason than I thought. I was cleaning out my emails, and I have a lot of stuff in there that had been just festering in there. A lot of things that Nina has sent me. A lot of other people have sent me, so I thought, you know what? Why not just bust this stuff out and talk about it? To you subs in the chat arena, thank you so much for being here. Leslie and Billy, Texas, hook 'em horns, baby, hook 'em horns. Aquarius, welcome. Haven't seen you in a while. I'm glad you're here. Mountain Mama, how you doing? Hope everything's going well. And the people that hadn't made it in here yet, you You'll get in here eventually, I'm sure. Yeah, I heard about a little melee that went down in another chat today. I got a little bit of it because I was watching. Of course, this little twerp always has to put my name in his mouth. So I told him, I'm right here, you piece out, you know. And of course, he didn't have nothing else to say. The dude can hardly conversate, much more anything else. But I'm not going to get on all that. You know what? The truth of the matter is, those that don't matter don't have any reason to be in your mind. And there's a lot of people that are definitely some very special individuals. And there's a reason why they all click together. They deserve each other for real. What y'all think about my thumbnail? Let me take a poll right quick. I know I said I wasn't going to do the guilt or innocence, but you know what? I'm tired of being a nice guy. I really am. I'm tired of being that guy that is politically correct, that's worried about what other people say. This is my damn channel. This is my channel. If people can't handle it, you know, it's on them. How many of you believe that Brian is guilty? Let me hear you shout it out in the chat. How many of you believe that Brian is guilty? Based on what we know, based on the Dateline stuff, based on the documents. I'm not talking about innocent till proven guilty. There's a suspect behind bars, right? So that man is guilty at this point. And as sad as it is, sometimes we're guilty until proven innocent in this world. But, most people forget about that. And let me tell you guys in the chat a little bit about something. Nobody fights harder against this man, Koberger, than I do. Every other day, I'm getting some kind of email from YouTube about you need to take this off your page. You can't use this. You can't say that. You can't do this. Now I see why people don't want to mess with really giving their true view on it, because it's a lot of work to take all that stuff and redo your videos and all that stuff. You know what I mean? 12 gauge people here, of course. You're my people. My people. Well, I want to play something really quick. And I'm going to play it out of line. That way I don't get copyrighted. I'm only going to play a little bit of it at a time. But many times they say, y'all ain't got nothing. Y'all ain't got nothing. So let me start with this, okay? Very quickly.
Pitch dark. The white car caught in these images, obtained exclusively by Dateline, a car that had been captured on video for some 38 minutes on the streets around 1122 King Road in Moscow, had gone off camera and apparently parked nearby.
So how many of you thought that was a white car? Are we in denial in here? Are we in denial? Did y'all see that? Did y'all see that vehicle? And let's see it again.
Pitch dark. The white car caught in these images, obtained exclusively by Dateline, a car that had been captured on video for some 38 minutes on the streets around 1122 King Road in Moscow, had gone off camera and apparently parked nearby. Inside the car, police believe, the driver and a knife with a 7-inch blade, the Marine Corps Fighting K-Bar. What was going through the mind of the person carrying that knife? Dr. Brucato can only...
Imagine that. What would that individual have that knife in that car for? And it looks like a white car to me. It really does. It looks like a white vehicle to me. But you know what? Once again, I'm not doing my show for another channel or 5 channels or 10 channels. They don't like it. They don't like how I roll. They can just keep on rolling themselves because I'm not here to entertain people. Usually they're watching for a reason, right? They're watching to see what we got to say so they can attack it. And that's the first thing they always say is, we always get attacked. Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Because as I saw earlier, the moment people don't like what you say, they instantly start yelling at you and lying about you and all kinds of stuff. Start lying about what you said, what you did. But I want to start with some of this stuff. Then I'm going to play some more of those videos because I really want to show you what they got. This right here starts out because you know how many times I've heard the PCA was a piece of crap. It wasn't right. It wasn't written right. Well, let me educate a little bit on what the PPA. Wow. The purpose of the probable cause affidavit is to document the reason for a warrantless arrest or search and seizure and to establish that there was sufficient evidence to do so. To document arrest reasons, a probable cause affidavit is a sworn statement that details the reasons for arresting someone without a judge's permission. People say the PCA is irrelevant. It was a piece of crap. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Because you don't know what the PCA is. You think a PCA is an opinion. You've heard that a PCA is nothing but a story and a fairy tale. To establish probable cause, a judge reviewed the affidavit to determine if there was sufficient evidence to arrest the person. So, chat, wasn't there a judge by the magistrate? Her name was something Markle, um, May Markle or something like that. I don't even remember her name. I know it's something like that. But there was probable cause for an arrest warrant to be signed. We've gone through this in the court hearings. There was probable cause. Authorize a search warrant. There was a lot of search warrants that were trying to be thrown out because they said that these search warrants were written which violated the suspect's amendment rights. If the judge agrees that the probable cause exists, they will sign and authorize a search warrant. Which that's what the judge did, right? Is that not right? Is that not right? I ask of you, I'm going to say this one time, okay? And I hope you abide by this. Um, you are grown adults. Megan Marshall, thank you. Yes, that's her name. If you stream to your channel from my channel, it is your responsibility to take care of your chatters. Because if you don't take care of your chatters, I'm going to just knock the stream off because that's your responsibility. The other night, I had to do that because I thought that person was in this chat and it wasn't. So if you stream from my show, it is your responsibility to take care of your chatters. If you don't do so, then don't stream from my show. And we're not going to use the word pro burgers in here or guilters. If we're going to use a word for the way we describe ourselves, let's describe ourselves as educated individuals living in reality. How about that? Let's stop with that stupid, outdated pro burger guilter bullshit. That's junior high crap. You know what I mean? That's junior high crap. So, there, I said it. Let's move on. Okay. Authorize a search warrant. If the judge agrees the probable cause exists, they will sign and authorize a search warrant. They reduce the need for officer presence. The affidavit can reduce the need for an officer to be present at the initial appearances and probable cause hearing. So, had there been the preliminary hearing, the officers wouldn't have had to be there because they wrote the affidavit. They would have been able to just say, well, Officer so and so and Officer so and so, this is what they saw, this is what they observed, this is what we gave search warrants for, and so on and so on. They reduced the need for the judge after hours. The affidavit can reduce the need for a judge to appear after hours for probable cause hearings. So there, my friend, is a PCA. And that's what a PCA is needed for. And that's what they are. Okay? Any questions so far on that? I thought this photo was interesting because as we saw just then in the video, that car turned around right here, okay? And I've heard multitudes of thoughts on this area right here. This is not 1122. This is Queen Road right here, and this is 1112. So this light right here, do you ever wonder why this infrared camera got blinded out by the color of the vehicles and everything else in between, and why it went grayish to white? Was because there was a light in the background. There was lighting everything this way, and the infrared was going against this light. So therefore, how could those pumpkins be freaking orange if that infrared light was going against that light that was right down that street? You wouldn't have been able to see the pumpkins. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing about those pumpkins. They were there and you know it. They were there, they were orange, and we move on. Right? Right. So, any questions about this photo right here? Any questions at all? Y'all have anything to say about this photo? I thought this was interesting because I was asking Jeff the other day, or Nina, one of them, as they were rolling this way, if there was actually a street light right there. Well, that explained why that camera had such a tough time distinguishing these vehicle colors, because this is almost like casting. It's kind of like these lights that I have right now. If they were behind me and there was a camera in front of me, you wouldn't be able to see nothing but the silhouette. You wouldn't see because the lights were shining against this light coming this way, if that makes any sense. What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about that? Any comments on that? Well, Leslie, I'm sorry that happened to you. Texas, I'm sorry that happened to you. And Jeff, you're a grown up. You've been in those chats for a long time. You either take care of yourself or you just hang with those type of individuals. You should know by now that they're not going to change their spots. You know, sometimes a leopard never changes his spots. And I thought this photo was interesting too because it's never been discussed. I think they took this down the next morning because it says Saturdays are for the girls. And, you know, you know, regardless if they're made of metal or not, people are not stupid. They know a pumpkin is orange. They just want to be contrarian and they want to be intelligent and they want to do the mob mentality and they want to say that other people pick on them whenever they're playing the victim role. And that's all it is. You know? In this live, though, we don't have any of that. But, it is what it is. And you said, don't forget the infrared camera also gets its tones for objects from the light on the camera to shine outward, of course. So if you have a light shining at you and you have another camera that's shining more light, it's kind of differentiating the context of the lights. And I'm going to show that video again. Well, whether you enjoy debates or not, I mean, you're a grown ass man. You handle it like you want. But don't bring them over here to attack you because I'm not going to put up with it. Here, let's watch this again.
Pitch dark. The white car caught in these images obtained exclusively by Dateline, a car that had been captured on video for pitch dark. The white car caught in these images obtained exclusively by Dateline, a car that had been captured on video for some 38 minutes on the streets around 1122 King Road in Moscow, had gone off camera and apparently parked nearby. Inside the car, police believe, the driver and a knife.
I'm going to play another one out of sequence. That way I don't get copyrighted.
November 18th, 5 days after the murders, Koberger's browsing history showed a program with the title card, The Perfect Killing Machine, Ted Bundy, Serial Killer. After he watched a YouTube video about the King Road victims.
There are plenty of questions and very few answers.
Then, also on the 18th, state licensing records show that Koberger went to the DM.
What's interesting about that video is there was 60 times that that he had looked for Idaho 4 stuff. He had been downloading all kinds of stuff on his electronic 60 times. Isn't that a little interesting to you guys? You know what I mean? Isn't that a little interesting? So let's move on to this next photo. This is from Inside Looking, and this with the speculation. This started a lot of stuff early on. Yeah, 60 times. So I'm about to show you a lot more stuff that, people have forgotten about or don't talk about anymore. But yet, whenever we hear that there's no evidence against this individual that could have tied him to any of this, because people don't want to see any evidence. People don't want to see any evidence. This was always interesting to me. It said, speculation, killer parked behind the house, approached property through the tree line, entered the sliding door and left it open, committed murders and exited the sliding door. One knife according to the coroner's statement. Time of the murder, approximately 3:20 to 3:40. According to the car, fleeing the scene and on camera on Highway 8, approximately 3:45. Vehicle left skid marks upon the exit. Please see photos below for more information. Well, the fact that they got the times wrong, and I don't know how much of this information was already out there, so this person might have not had anything really impressive to say. And the other night, Nina and I were on her live, and we were talking about this poem right here. Hey, Firefly. We're talking about this poem, and I've talked about it before on some other lives, but I found it today, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to talk about it again. As you can see, the date that this was posted, Sunday, November 20th, 2022, 7 days after the murders. Flowers, leaves, and butterflies. Here's a sight to soothe your eyes. A mini forest outside your home. You might even find a gnome. So, Nina and I were talking about how in the Koberger home, there was a lot of gnomes, especially on that wall with the mountain. I don't know what mount is that, Mount Rainier or something like that. I don't know. Regardless, that mountain that they have on the mural, there's a couple gnomes in there. And I asked her, I said, wouldn't that be interesting if that knife was in one of those gnomes? Would that not be something else? Yeah. Yeah, her and I have talked about this a little bit. And isn't it interesting if that knife or some kind of evidence would have been stuffed up in one of those gnomes? and or the pieces of the K-bar, whatever. I mean, that's extreme speculation, but I mean, I always thought that was interesting. What if this little poem, because we've looked at these coordinates, and they're in the middle of a forest. There's nothing there. I don't know if the police ever went and looked there. I don't know if people ever searched it. I don't know. But these coordinates are in between Moscow and Pullman, if I remember correctly. So let me go to the next thing that I want to show you. Before I do that, I want to play the rest of this one.
6 a.m. Something definitive seemed to be happening. The car traveled west, performed a U-turn at the intersection of King Road and Queen Road, and headed back toward the house. At 4:07 a.m., the car drove in one last time, approaching the house at 1122 King Road.
So now it's time.
To make sure they arrived safely, a ride of little more than a mile. They got to the house on King Road at 1:56 a.m. Roommates Bethany and Dylan also got home around 2. Xana and her boyfriend, Ethan, would return shortly. And
So I'm going to play a little bit at a time because I don't want to play it all together. So I don't want to get copyrighted. Okay. And I did put a little notice at the bottom of the description that I don't own any of this. This is strictly for fair use. So it says the seatbelt law in Idaho is a secondary law, not a primary. That means that someone can't be pulled over only for not wearing their seatbelt. There has to be some other violation that causes the police to pull them over. And then they can hit them with a seatbelt violation as well. So yeah, it's usually used when someone did something minor and the cop decided to give them a break and hit them with a lesser charge of a seatbelt violation. Though, if a cop does want to pull someone over just for the seatbelt violation, they can probably find something to pull the person over for anyways. 1 mile over the speed limit, failing to come to a full and complete stop, not putting on a blinker on with enough warning. So, I have a lot of you sleuths in here that know this case pretty darn well. You know a lot more than I do on some areas. So let me ask you this. When he was pulled over for that no seatbelt ticket, is there anything in that ticket that shows any other reason why the policeman would have pulled him over? Have y'all heard anything? Do y'all know if there was anything else that would have given him the definitive right to pull him over? Do y'all know anything? Because I'm asking this because this is a secondary offense. So what would it have been that that got him pulled over? You get what I'm saying? Have y'all heard anything? I mean, I've read the ticket, but I didn't see anything else other than the seatbelt. So do y'all know anything else other than the seatbelt? Firefly, do you have any comment on that? Anybody else? So let's move on from this while you answer that. This says on August 21st, BK was issued a ticket. Let me make that go away. Come on. Okay, it says on August 21st, BK was issued a ticket for seatbelt violation. A screenshot of the citation was posted in this thread, but it has since been removed by the mods. The fact that he received a seatbelt ticket in Moscow has been widely speculated. It has been widely reported that BK lived at Steptoe Village, a WSU-operated housing complex for postgrads and students with families. The ticket also indicates that BK lived at the Steptoe Village Apartments. I won't post the address that was given on the ticket, but I verified that it was Steptoe Village via Google. The ticket indicates that it was issued at the intersection of Pullman and Farm Road. That happened to be the intersection that someone traveling from Pullman to the crime scene would have to turn at in order to get to the King Road house. A Carfax, which was posted along with the ticket, indicates that BK put over 10,000 miles on his car in 4 months. Even if 2,500 of those miles were attributable to his drive from PA to Washington when he moved for school, he was still racking up to close to 400 miles a week. Doing what? He wasn't an Uber or food delivery driver, and he was in grad school and presumably studying for much of that time, which is an assumption. BK's Pullman residence is 9.8 miles from the murder house. The theory says very soon, within weeks after arriving in Pullman, BK was obsessively going by or casing the King Road house, which means he would have encountered his targets in that time frame. Additionally, cops don't usually go out of the way to give people seatbelt violations. In my experience, a seatbelt or similar violation is a result of a cop wanting to punish you for being suspect, doing something shady, driving around a known drug area, etc., but lacking anything else to charge you with. Source: I received many such violations in my misspent youth. So let me see what y'all just said. Welcome to all of you that are in here. I heard speeding. It was in court whether they were trying to get the video of that stop out. I remember that, but I didn't remember the speeding. So thank you for that. Thank you, Layla. I don't think they had time to eat at the grub. What are y'all talking about? The grub truck right now? I think it was over with by 3:15. Okay. I'm trying to find. Okay. Hello, everybody. It was for speeding, not just for a seatbelt violation. This is a traffic stop. The state noticed that they were using as a 404B evidence. Okay, so speeding it is. All right, I'll go with that. I forgot about that little aspect right there. I know that when I read the ticket, I don't remember or recall seeing the speeding, but you're right. Including the phone call to Jack. I think they were already gone. Typically unique. Thank you for being here. Yes, indeed. So y'all don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you're enjoying what I'm doing so far. I had a lady cop track me down for blocks for a seatbelt violation. She was awful. I'm sorry to hear that. I've gotten a seatbelt ticket here in Texas, and that thing back in the day was about $65. So it was something that was not pleasant if you got one. Okay, we're going to continue on. On the morning of November 13th, the surviving roommates summoned friends to the residence because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. At 11:58 a.m., a 911 call requested aid for an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence on one of the surviving roommates' cell phones. Multiple people talked with the 911 dispatcher before a Moscow police officer arrived at the location. Officers entered the residence and found the four victims on the second and third floors. At this time in the investigation, detectives do not believe any individual at the residence when 911 was called is involved in this crime. So, when this was put out, police had already stated that they did not believe any individual at the residence when 911 was called was involved in the crime. So all that stuff that people say about these people could have been involved and why did the police not interview them and why were they not allowed to, why were they allowed to congregate and all this other stuff? Well, that's why. Because upon their interview, they found out they weren't involved. So, you know, and there it is right there in black and white. And it's a paper out of Moscow or a website. So it's not made up by Reddit or anything. And it says to date, nearly 600 tips have been received. That's a lot of freaking tips. All tips are processed, vetted, investigated, and cleared. 38 interviews have been conducted with the individuals who may have information about the murders. 38 interviews have been done. And at this time, there were 600 tips. So you tell me, with all that stuff going on, um, thank you so much, Bo. We try to have a good adult chat in here. We think about this right here, what I'm saying. 600 tips, 32 people were interviewed. That's quite a bit of people having information or some kind of understanding about what man went down, what they saw, what they heard. But when other people have talked about this in these 2.5 years, and I'm not just specifying one or two creators, I'm talking about a lot of them. They're still talking about stuff like this as if none of this ever took place. The 911 call was staged. It was a rehearsal. Steve Gonsalves was there. Blah, blah, blah. All this BS. But, like I said, you can't make people believe this when they already have their mind made up on other things. You really can't. You can't change somebody's mind who's already going to be confrontational with you because they want to fight. They don't care about the information. Okay, this one says, I think this is talking about the coroner. It says she said DNA samples have been taken from the scene. All right, you want to work on your own there? And are being processed. When pressed, she said it was possible that some of the DNA being tested may not be of the four victims. There were nail clippings that were taken and other ones that are being sent off. And so that will be processed, she said. They're awaiting final autopsy results, which will not be available for another 4 to 6 weeks, pending toxicology. Mabbitt said in this case, the toxicology reports likely wouldn't be important to the investigation. And so, y'all are smart in the chat. Can you tell me what could have been one of the reasons that the toxicology reports wouldn't have been important for the investigation? Can y'all tell me that? I'm waiting. Well, I hope you keep coming back. So, what are some of the reasons that the toxicology reports wouldn't be important to this investigation? Can y'all tell me that? Give me your thoughts on that. Why would the toxicology not be important to the investigation? This also says she added that the autopsies were completed by Spokane Medical Examiner's Office, located in Spokane, Washington, about 90 minutes northwest of Moscow, but they responded to the scene a few hours after police were called. It's pretty traumatic when there's four dead college students who've been stabbed to death in one location, she said, adding that there was quite a bit of blood at the scene. I've been a coroner for 16 years. We've had multiple victim murders in the past, but nothing like this, she said. So nobody believes her when she's saying that it was a bloody scene. Why? Because nobody was talking about blood in the 911 call. Why would you be talking about blood when you're worrying about those people that are unconscious in your mind, those people that are not responding to your text messages, phone calls, none of this? Do you think blood is really on your mind? I wouldn't believe so, but that's just me. I think she just meant that the autopsy reports would not be relevant to determining the cause of death because they were stabbed. Toxicology was still run on all fours. I think I heard that as well. I have no clue why I would want toxicology reports. Okay. I agree. You definitely have to have an open mind and definitely have to can't go left field in a rabbit hole that had no logic. The only reason I think is because it is obvious how they passed. Right. The coroner was just saying drugs didn't take their lives. It was homicide with a knife. I agree with that. Very good thoughts. They're important. They'll be able to tell how he was able to kill four people that fast. I'll come back to yours, Leslie. That's pretty long. Oops, I meant the toxicology was not important to causation, not the autopsy. Gotcha. Okay. I think Mabbitt's job is to determine manner and cause of death and nothing more, so not relevant to her job. Great point. Great point. And she said that. She said that she wasn't the medical examiner. She said she was the coroner. Her job, like you just said, is to show up, pronounce the people dead, make sure that there's no sign of life, jot down what she observes, and then, maybe observe them being loaded up. I don't know. Okay, this one says, and this is from Newsweek. It says, in addition, the prosecutors had given the defense team 417 files of phone call records, 8,000 video clips from CCTV. 8,000 video clips. Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. 8,000 video clips. Is that not a lot of video clips? Is that not a lot? 8,000 video clips. Jeff, you're a videographer. Is that not a lot of video clips? From CCTV cameras in 10 homes, multiple terabytes from 11 computers and 17 phones. Look at all this stuff where there's evidence. 8,000 video clips from CCTV, closed caption TV or closed circuit TV cameras in 10 homes. That means that there's 10 homes that have video footage of some kind of information about this case. So to say that the 1112 was the only place that had a video camera where they caught anything, or the Ridge Road camera, that's very closed minded, I would think. Don't you? Because this says 8,000 video clips, 10 homes with cameras, 11 computers, and 17 phones examined by police, and information from multiple social media accounts. In court, Jennings said the large amount of evidence handed over included 15,691 pages of discovery, which would fill 39 legal binders, including 13,000 photographs, 911 dumps of audio visuals, and an additional 50 terabytes of 285 police interviews. So you tell me that there's no kind of police investigation when you have all that stuff. You tell me that you have all that and you're not going to be able to piece things together? Let's see what you're saying, Firefly. Or Leslie, you say no, 12 gauge. That means they have that much from all over. A lot could be a nothing burger. Of course. But that's still a lot. That's still a lot. 10 homes, cameras, where we're being told by multiple people on in every show that you watch that there's no camera footage of this vehicle at all. None. The vehicle doesn't even exist. But let me show you one more time.
Pitch dark. The white car caught in these images, obtained exclusively by Dateline, a car that had been captured on video for some 38 minutes on the streets around 1122 King Road in Moscow, had gone off camera and apparently parked nearby. Inside the car, police believe, the driver and a knife with a 7-inch blade, the Marine Corps Fighting K-Bar. What was going through the mind of the person carrying that knife? Dr. Brucato can only speculate, based in toward 1122 King Road. The security camera on that neighboring house picked up sounds, including what police described in charging papers as distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud. Here are those sounds. A dog began to bark, as if something was wrong.
Whoa, what do y'all think about that? I know y'all have seen that already, but to hear that dog, to hear that thud, that is real life right there. That is not make believe stuff. I mean, that is not make believe. So that's a lot of evidence right there. And I've always said that. Whether there's very little of it that's going to ultimately make the court floor, that's still a lot. I believe that there's more that is going to make that court floor than not. Just because we haven't been told about it does not mean that it's not going to come. This is something that I found, like I said, while cleaning out my stuff. It says DM was not cleaning the house. According to friends who were there after the police arrived, this is secondhand info, not fact. BF heard the thud and texted DM. DM went to check on Xana. That's when she saw the man in black. She went back to her room, and when she was sure she didn't hear anyone else, she went to Xana's room. The bathroom door was open and the light was on. They believe he took a towel from the bathroom and wiped his shoes and a knife and wrapped the knife in a towel. I remember hearing this very early on, but I don't have any way of verifying whether this is true or not. You know what I mean? So, what do y'all think about that? Yeah, Dr. Bricado is an amazing person. His schedule is extremely busy. I've been trying for months to get him over here, but hopefully maybe one day. What do you think about that? That supposedly, let me go back to this because I saw this very early on too. It says DM went to check on Xana, and that's when she saw the man in black. She went back to her room, and when she was sure she didn't hear anyone else, she went to Xana's room. The bathroom door was open and the light was on. They believe he took a towel from the bathroom and wiped his shoes and the knife and wrapped the knife in a towel. What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about that? Do you think he took a towel from the bathroom? I hate the time delay because I'm like waiting for somebody to answer. It's like, come on, somebody answer that. Somebody tell me what you believe, what you think. Could it be true? Could it not be true? Could it just be hearsay? I mean, because I just saw a walkthrough about Greg Hughes' little rendition of what he did, and he did the same thing. He had Brian coming from Xana's room, going into the bathroom, washing the knife off, and then wrapping in it, and then taking off, and that's when Dylan saw him. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. And I clipped this too, so it says when these Exhibit A's were submitted in support of search warrant application, DM had sat in at least 3 interviews with law enforcement, 2 on November 13, 2022, one with Officer Nunez and later with Detective Mowry, and the one on November 17, 2022 with Detective Gooch. Our description of the intruder was notably similar during all 3 interviews. So how do people get that she could not describe the intruder in any of the interviews? How did they get that? Make that make sense to me, chat. How do people get that? And then it goes on to say, it says, Her description of the intruder was notably similar during all three interviews. White male, slim, skinny, lean body type, slightly taller than DM, 5'10", wearing all black, wearing a mask that was covering his forehead and mouth, a voice she didn't recognize saying he was here to help, and the intruder walked out or toward the backsliding door without saying anything to her. While she did not tell Officer Nunez that she noticed the intruder carrying a vacuum type object in his hand, she did convey that information to Detective Mowry later that day, as well as Detective Gooch a few days later. So she was consistent with what she was talking about. She may have not mentioned it to Officer Nunez, but she mentioned it to the other two. So to say that Dylan's not a very honest person, or she's deceptive, or she's a liar, or all this other stuff, it's just false based on what this is written. And then people say, well, you just take as everything law enforcement says as being the gospel. Well, if you know the law, you can't lie on these documents because they're legal documents. What would make somebody throw away the career just to plant a stupid little donkey tail on Brian Koberger? Answer me that. It says she also told Detective Gooch that she remembered the suspect's eyebrows were bushy, but could not remember their color. DM likewise told Detective Mowry she could not remember the color of his eyebrows, so she was consistent in that as well. To me, Dylan has not lied. I know people want to say that she lied, but she has not lied. Based on what this says, she has not lied. Okay? And this is just a photo that I had very early on because I did a live when this came out with the documents. And this is something else that I somehow, I don't know where I got this. Nina sends me so much stuff. She may have sent it to me. I don't know. It's a DoorDash records for Jana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin. The 453 disclosure of the DoorDash search warrant returns. This contains Ethan DoorDash records, but does not contain records for Jana. The warrant returns contain photographs of listed deliveries to 1122 King Road and span as far back as 2019, and a spreadsheet of communication between the person ordering the food and the DoorDasher. The state has not specified which of these records it intends to use at trial, how they were made and kept in the course of a regularly conducted business activity, and if it was the regular practice of the business to make the report a record. And underneath there it says Dana's DoorDash order was apparently from the DoorDash account created on November 8th with a $50 gift card purchased in Pullman. I don't remember what the significance of this is, but do y'all remember the significance of this? Um, can y'all can y'all tell me the significance of this? Why we're not going to block or time out anybody unless somebody is rude to other people in the chat. We don't cuss, we don't call people names. I don't know who you are talking about because everybody seems to be talking and getting along just fine. So you're not ordering the mods around. If I say block or time somebody out, Leslie, I'll do it. So you don't have to, okay? I don't see anybody not getting along. So for you to say please no blocking or timeouts, I'll do it if I want to. This is my chat and my live. We don't play favorites here. Everybody's equal. So, do y'all know why that was significant at all? Can y'all see the fact I even have to stop doing what I'm doing to address the chat kind of makes me a little upset. Okay? So let me just keep on going. Do y'all know why that was significant at all? I think this part right here was interesting to me because Nina had highlighted this and she said, read this part that's highlighted. It says, I must ensure that myself and my fellow crime scene personnel are wearing gloves and other protective equipment as to avoid contaminating the scene with latent fingerprints. A fiber free boot cover would also be ideal to avoid leaving physical footprints or residue from the boot. That's true. Anything that is fiber free and covers the mouth, hair, and overall body could be helpful in avoiding crime scene contamination since hair, saliva, skin cells, and other bodily fluids or cells may be added to the scene, thus contaminating it. Fibers can be left via the theory of exchange and would contaminate the crime scene from its initial state as the offender left it. So, if the individual was wearing any kind of fiber type shoes or whatever they're talking about at that point, then there would be no fibers left at the crime scene. There would be no cross contamination. You know what I mean? There would be no cross contamination. Hey, Kara, welcome again. Nice to see you. So it also goes to say, even if we can't assume that there is an offender, despite seeing obvious preventing contamination is an important way to ensure the integrity of the investigation and the evidence. We should always treat the crime scene as if they're indeed a criminal homicide, as to not miss out on important details. That is how this crime scene is being handled. The first thing for me to do is to take a coordinated series of crime scene photographs. Oh, this is Koberger's thing. And he's going step by step, telling you how he's investigating this crime if he was doing it. I mean, granted, one person doesn't do all this. Okay. He wrote it down as if he was the one walked in and found all this, which is understandable. That's usually what they get you to write this stuff down as if you're the one on the scene. So walk through it and tell us what you're going to do, what you're going to wear, how you're not going to cross contaminate, how you're going to, lift prints and stuff like that. So right here at the bottom, it says the first thing for me to do is to take a coordinated series of crime scene photographs with a digital photography device or 35 millimeter camera from a natural point of view. These photos must be taken prior to the movement of any object in the crime scene to ensure that the photo captures the scene as the offender left it. So there is a procedure to lifting fingerprints and all kinds of evidence so you don't contaminate it. You just can't go into a home and start touching everything. I mean, granted, we've seen that from pictures that people have dropped gloves and then they throw them in a bag and all this other stuff. You know, we have that mentality that, everybody who does that type of work contaminates certain things. And this was a map that was very early on. I think Jeff made this, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know where I got it. But there was a man walking right here early on, and they were saying that that could have been Brian, but I doubt that was. See, this is Walento right here, and this turns into Ridge Road. I'm almost certain that this house right here has some cameras that captured a lot more than we really know. This is the house with the black little truck, and here's Ridge Road. So he was captured on Ridge Road on a camera, right? So that only makes sense unless it was further down. And this also says Linda Lane camera. It says Linda Lane cam footage provided to police early on. Started the whole Elantra stuff. This says Queen Road Apartments. Enan Harsh lived here according to the crime, lies, and videotape. So he did live right there at the corner apartment. That's interesting. And there's the murder house. So he supposedly lived right there. The glove was found in between those trash cans. So I thought that map was intriguing a little bit. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about, right? I saw that picture today and I almost thought about putting it up here, but then I thought, nah, I don't I don't want to go back there. You know what I mean? I don't want to go back there. So I thought that was interesting. One thing about this picture, before we go to that picture, I want to play something else. Where did the rest of the chat go? Let me see. I want to play this one.
To make sure they arrived safely, a ride of little more than a mile. They got to the house on King Road at 1:56 a.m. Roommates Bethany and Dylan also got home around 2. Xana and her boyfriend, Ethan, would return shortly. And starting at 2:26 a.m., Kaylee and Maddie made a total of 10 phone calls to Kaylee's former boyfriend. A half hour later, at 2:54 a.m., a cell phone in neighboring Pullman was turned off. It was the cell phone belonging to Brian Koberger. 32 minutes later, at 3:26, a car that authorities identified as a white Elantra and called Suspect Vehicle 1 was detected in the southeast corner of Moscow. At 3:30 a.m., security video from a neighboring house, obtained exclusively by Dateline, shows Suspect Vehicle 1 turning toward 1122 King Road, just off.
Okay, like I said, I got to keep cutting it off because otherwise, get in trouble with this. So this photo right here, it's either been captured by a very poor camera or the lighting sucked or something's wrong with this photo. But he looks different in every photo that he takes. See, like there's that photo and it looks a lot whiter. And then there's this one. Could this be the balaclava right here? He just rolled it up. I mean, could this have been exactly what Dylan saw? Only the eyes and nothing else? The eyebrows? Because, I mean, if you roll this down and this is the balaclava, then that's what Dylan saw. He does. He does. I have that picture, Kara. It would take me all night to find it again. But it is just yeah, they all look different, right? See, that's a picture of a picture. This looks like a picture of a picture. Like this was saved on an iPad or maybe a phone, and somebody turned this phone on and was taking pictures of this phone. Like I can give you the phone, but you know, if whatever you do with it, that's on you. You know what I mean? I mean, those pictures just look kind of weird to me. And this also got me a little bit early on. It says there's evidence to show that she awakened and tried to get out of that situation. Says Gonsalves. She was assaulted and stabbed. So we now know that the assaulted part is her being punched, punched in the face. Christy Gonsalves explains her daughter had several fatal wounds and that the way the bedroom was set up made it difficult to escape. The bed was up against the wall, the headboard was touching the wall, and the left side of the bed was touching the wall. And we believe that Maddie was on the outside and Kaylee was on the inside. That makes sense. We've always thought that, and that's pretty concrete right there. The way the bed was set up, she was trapped. Christy Gonsalves believes the assailant was not expecting to find the two best friends together in the same bed. I do think that this plan went awry. I do think that, he intended to kill one and killed four. The other night, when I was on the live with Nina, I don't know if y'all remember me talking about this car, but this is the 300 that was parked next to the green car back in the back lot. I was watching this video one day and this car just happened to roll by. And I thought, you know what? I need to snap that photo. So this car was also being implicated as being the potential car that people were seeing that was supposedly the Elantra. People were saying, it's not an Elantra, it's that 300 Chrysler. Doesn't that look a little long to be that vehicle that we just saw make the 3-point turn? Let's watch that again. I want y'all to look at that car and you tell me if that car is that long, okay? Because I believe that you are smart people. Let's watch it again.
6 a.m. Something definitive seemed to be happening. The car traveled west, performed a U-turn at the intersection of King Road and Queen Road, and headed back toward the house. At 4:07 a.m., the car drove in one last time, approaching the house at 1122 King Road.
So, tell me what you think about this vehicle being the car we just saw. Okay, that's what I thought. So you know where I got that from, Firefly. But I did see this on a video, somebody else's video. It's 100% not that car. Okay. No, it actually could be a Chrysler 300. Nope, nothing like a Chrysler 300. Well, I'm glad that y'all are able to help me out there because I don't believe that it's the Chrysler 300. I don't understand what any vehicle, let's look at it this way, okay? What would any vehicle have business circling this neighborhood? For what reason? What reason would that car have to circle this neighborhood? To go all the way around the neighborhoods on Walenta, on Taylor Avenue, all around. What would that vehicle, if we were just going to say, okay, it was just a random white car. And then at 420, that white car that's supposedly been circling around takes off in a high rate of speed and almost runs somebody over. So the reason that we're saying that is because in the Dateline episode it said that one of the sources close to the investigation said that there was an imprint on Xana's chair um, that showed that the individual could have sat down um, before he took off. Yeah, to remove coveralls. You're right. This picture right here. Many people are going to say, no, 12 gauge, you're full of crap. They're going to make him handing over any little thing other than what I believe it is. Because if you look at this, you see, I mean, I know you probably can't see it, but I see a little SIM card in his hand. And this is the guy that lives at 711 Queen Road. And I was pushing that for the longest time. There's a camera there, and that's the SIM card to it. And me and PKC got together one night, and she's like, I got that, where he's handing that over to the police officer. But many people had told me that's not a SIM card. He could be handing over his driver's license. Okay, why is he handing over his driver's license right there? He's standing up. He's not in the car driving. He's not any of that. What would be the reason to be handing over his driver's license. That is a SIM card. And if you see what I see, these branches are on the mirror or on the window, and you can really see his hand clip like this, holding a SIM card. He has a SIM card. So that got me to thinking, and I've always pushed that, and people gave me clap back on it and everything else. There's no way there's a camera at those apartments, blah, blah, blah. They wouldn't be able to see anything. Um, okay. I have a whole video in my library on that, by the way, if y'all want to go check that out. He's in front of a Toyota. It looks like a Toyota Corolla. And this one is, I can't really tell. But this is a Corolla, I think. It's definitely a Toyota because I have a Toyota and I recognize that anywhere. But that is definitely a SIM card or some kind of drive because these are the branches reflecting off the window and there's not a driver's license in between that. I've had people come at me with that, and there's no way that is an SD card that he's handing over. Yeah. I mean, I thought that was interesting because I had been pushing that when I first started my channel. I thought, well, I'm going to go with this narrative. I'm the only one going to, because I saw a news report of a news reporter talking about those apartments right there and how there was a ring camera that triangulated enough to see in front of the King Road house. And I also thought, well, that's when Olivia was saying, she knew that Kaylee and Maddie got dropped off. And I thought, well, could this camera have seen that? Okay. Brian then asked to interview the owners of the house with the cam out back, and they refused allegedly. I remember watching it. Okay. Yeah. So I've always hung on to that because I believe that there's a camera somewhere in that apartment, that small apartment complex right there. And if you don't know where this is, it's right across the street from 1112 on the opposite side of 1122. It's kind of parallel to it. So you could see a lot if there was a camera there. You could see a lot of movement, especially if this car was going as slow as it appeared. And this is just a photo to show you that this is how Brian supposedly writes right-handed. He doesn't seem to be stumbling over writing his name or whatever he's writing right there. You know? He doesn't seem to be stumbling over, so obviously he has good gait. He's not propping himself up. Actually, he has his hand under the notebook. This is what I made today. So, okay. I found this, or actually I made this because this is what I typed all this out. It says Michael Koberger Jr. Both of Brian's parents were employees at the Pleasant Valley School District for many years. Michael was a maintenance worker for the school district from 2006 to 2019. According to the New York Post, weeks after the killings, Michael had flown out to Washington to travel home to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania with his son. According to Newsweek, in mid-December, the father and son drove for about 2,500 miles in a white Hyundai Elantra that police had told the public to be on the lookout for. Brian had stayed with his family through the holidays until his arrest on December 30th. Both of Brian's parents were also subpoenaed to testify in front of a grand jury in May 2023 per CNN. Sources told the news organization that an attorney for them tried to have the subpoena thrown out, but he was unsuccessful. We still don't know what that grand jury testimony was about. If y'all know, be sure to put it in the chat because I don't. Okay? Following the Idaho murders, it was revealed that Brian had been arrested in 2014 on misdemeanor theft charges for allegedly taking his sister's phone, as reported by ABC News. It was Michael who had contacted law enforcement about the stolen property. Brian did not serve jail time for the incident. Mary Ann Koberger was also employed by the Pleasant Valley School District until 2020. She worked as a paraprofessional assisting special needs students, according to the Post. Besides her work in the school, Mary Ann occasionally wrote letters to the local paper, Pocono Record, in June 2022. She wrote one reflecting on school shootings in America. She also shared a poem that her daughter had written about the tragic shooting in Uvalde, Texas. As I sat this morning reeling from yet another school shooting, I found myself wrestling with which actions need to be taken to stop all the madness. What is the answer? Gun control measures, mental health intervention? Marianne wrote to the paper. As I read the poem, I thought, whatever the solution, I pray we consider the children before the gun. Amanda Koberger. Not much is known about Brian's older sister, Amanda. Following her brother's arrest, it was reported that she and her sister Melissa were fired from their jobs in March 2023, according to the New York Post. While it's unclear what Amanda did for work, she was once an actress with a single credit in the 2011 horror film 2 Days Back, according to IMDb. Could life be imitating art? The sister of accused Idaho killer Brian Koberger starred in a gory, low-budget slasher movie where characters are brutally stabbed, slashed, and hacked to death with knives and hatchets. Amanda Koberger appeared as Lori in the 2011 flick 2 Days Back, about a group of young students who go hiking in the remote woods and meet their grisly end in the hands of a maniacal killer who has won their trust. It, it bears similarity to the knife attacks in remote Moscow, Idaho, that left 4 young students stabbed to death in their beds, crimes in which Brian now stands accused. There was nothing weird about her, Boone said. I cannot believe that's her brother. Melissa Koberger. In a letter to the Pocono Record, Marianne wrote that Melissa worked as a mental health therapist in New Jersey. As mentioned earlier, her mother also shared a poem she had written about the Uvalde elementary school shooting, which left 19 students and 2 teachers dead and injured 17 others. Like her sister, it was reported that Melissa had been fired from her job. So, here's some TikToks that I found. Hold on. Hold on. Let me share this. I'm playing it and y'all can't even see what I'm playing. Hold on a second. What'd you say? Hold on.
Use the steps.
Hold on. This is the one. Oh, good Lord.
Here is something that is fascinating. He did talk. He actually said a couple of things that are pretty astounding, and I'm assuming that his defense attorneys will probably want to know this, as well as the prosecutors. When he was asked, why did you do it? his answer was, I didn't do anything. When the follow-up question was, why did you go to Idaho? His answer was, the shopping is better in Idaho. Let me repeat that. When Brian Kober was asked, why did you go to Idaho? He answered, the shopping is better in Idaho. I'm assuming that's a joke, but we are dealing with.
What did y'all think about that statement? The shopping is better. Shopping is better in Idaho. Let me play another one for y'all. Hold on a second. Let me share the screen again. The shopping's better in Idaho. Isn't that interesting? And this is 27 pages of cruel and unusual, the constitutional requirements for heightened protection for defendants with severe mental illness in capital cases. Nina sent me that. I'm not going to read every one of it. And we've already seen his final exam, the crime scene scenario. I'm having to write one of these myself. So, nothing to see there, really. I mean, let me see what these are. Hold on a second. Y'all hear that dog? Okay, maybe not. I do want to play a TikTok that I sent over here. Let me see where I put it. Okay, maybe not. I was gonna show a TikTok, but I guess um I'm not gonna show it. Hey Jeff, if you have that photo of that guy that's walking down Walenta, can you send that to me? That way Kara can see it. Um I have that picture. You've sent it to me probably 100 times, I guess, but whether I'll find it, it's yet to be seen. Let me put this up while I go look. Okay, I feel bad for leaving y'all like that. I'm still looking, so what do y'all think about what I've talked about tonight so far? Quite interesting. I have so much stuff. I mean, I literally was going through all this today. I mean, the thing about it is on this email address, I don't just have Idaho stuff. I have all kinds of true crime stuff on here. So it's like getting through all this stuff and finding what I'm looking for is it takes a little bit of time. But I'm gonna do it because I saw it today. I did see that photo because I thought, is that Brian? Because people have been saying that that was him. Let me see if this is it. Ah, guess your boy found it. Your boy found it. There is the photo right there. Y'all see that? You see that? There's been a lot of people to say that wasn't Brian, but this is on 621 Ridge Road in Moscow, Idaho. So this is heading towards it turns, I think this is like at the other end. Let me see where 621 Ridge Road is on this map. Okay, let me take that one down and put this one up. So this is Walenta. This is the dead end. And if you remember watching JLR in the very beginning, he parked right here and he was talking about the dead end. So this is the other side of Walenta where you make a right, it goes to the dead end. And then you go up here. This is where the stop sign is that goes to King Road. And I think he was right here in this area. Right here. So that dead end was down that way. So if you, here's Ridge Road, here's Walenta, and this is the stop sign that goes to King Road, I think. And here's that house that I thought there was one of those houses with all those cameras. So he has a ring camera, he has a camera up there. This dude is cameraed out. So you can't tell me that he didn't get anything on his camera. And this dude's on Walenta. He's right behind the house. So you travel around Walenta. Then we hit Taylor. And then that takes you into the neighborhood. Actually, we'll go back to 1979, it looks like. I mean, it's not updated for nothing. You want to see what's crazy? Look at this. There used to be like a sorority house right here. I noticed this the other day when I was looking at this. This is no longer there. This is just the open field that goes up to 1122. There used to be a sorority house right there. It like takes us back to 1985 or something like that. You know? So that is crazy, I thought. And here's the infamous fire hydrant right there. This is October 2007. See, there's some students right there. That is wild. I guess it's a good thing this sorority house wasn't, I don't know if it's sorority or fraternity, but it's a good thing that it wasn't built. Guess that's Sigma Chi. I don't think Sigma Chi is even built yet. No, they got all that blocked off. So there's a person right there. I thought I saw him earlier. There's a person. It's quite interesting when you take Google Maps and you start wandering around and you start looking at stuff. It's pretty interesting. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. Um, Me too, Farah. Me too. Especially early on in this whole thing, I did a whole camera upload where I went all around, and I actually put every camera that I found on these houses. I put them all in this video with music. So it's in my library. So if y'all ever bored and y'all want to go in there and look around, there is a lot of Idaho stuff. A lot of Idaho stuff. Yeah. So that probably wasn't him, but that was interesting that people caught that really early. You know what I mean? And the thong. Yeah, that thong is wild. But I hope y'all have a wonderful night. I hope you enjoyed this Wednesday night, Idaho. I thank you so much for being here. Um, yeah, maybe the black jacket has been there on that fire hydrant since 1985. Um, yeah, that nasty thong probably been there just as long. Y'all have a wonderful night. Y'all take care of each other. And if you go in other chats, take care of each other and try not to call names. As much as it like is on the top of your tongue to say and lash out, that's what people want you to do. You ever notice when we were younger they said, sticks and stones or something like that. I don't even know. I can't even think clearly right now. Whatever they used to say about, something will never hurt you. Hey, Tabby, long time no see. Nice to see you again. Thank you for coming into the chat. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you've been doing okay. Amy Luhu, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. People think they know it all. Some of us have been researching this case since day one. I haven't really been doing it since day one. I was on vacation day one. Like I was on vacation when I saw it on the TV, and I didn't really get back into it until December, like the middle of December. Hey, Melissa D, thank you for being here. You know, am I correct that they didn't even have anything on Coburger until December 21st? I've said that so much. Can y'all correct me if that's wrong? I think that's correct, but is that right or is that wrong? They didn't even know who Koberger was till December 21st. Is that correct? So that means that all that evidence that they accumulated, all that stuff, they had all that before they even knew who Brian was. So I think December 21st. Um, I think the next one that I go over will. Let me play something really quick for the people that just got in here. I think this one's more interesting than all of them right here. This one.
November 18th, 5 days after the murders, Koberger's browsing history showed a program with the title card, The Perfect Killing Machine, Ted Bundy, Serial Killer. After he watched a YouTube video about the King Road victims.
There are plenty of questions and very few answers.
Then, also on the 18th, state licensing records show that Koberger went to the DMV and replaced the Pennsylvania plates on his white Hyundai Elantra with plates from Washington state, and took these pictures of his car and the new plates.
Welcome back. The eyes of the nation are on.
So I ask you this question. I'm not really through yet, I guess. So I ask you this question. What would be the purpose of you taking pictures of your new plates? Where are the other pictures without the plates? Did you take a picture of those? What would be the purpose of taking those pictures? I agree with you. Yeah. But he's taller than 5'3". That's the only thing. So let me ask you all that question. What would be the purpose of Brian taking that picture, those 3 pictures of that license plate on his car? Can y'all give me any logical reason why? I mean, do you take pictures of your new license plates? Okay, there you go. I mean, but 3 pictures? I mean, I got a picture of my phone of my license plate because I can never remember the number. You're right. But would you take 3 of them? Those shoes are black. He was wearing black shoes. Those look like Nikes. Um, when you're getting new insurance, okay. I was just wondering what the purpose of taking 3 pictures, though. Yeah, I just got 1 picture. I know, I take 1 picture. I'm just asking what would be the purpose of taking 3? Yeah. What a strange weapon. I've taken a pic of my new plate after moving to a new state. Yes. I get that. I get that. Like I said, I have a picture of my phone because I always get to a hotel and they want the license plate number and I can never remember it. So I said, you know what? When I walked out there, I took a picture and that was it. But I didn't have anything else other than that picture of the license plate. You know what I mean? So I'm going to leave you with that to ponder on, okay? Maybe we can find some logical reasoning behind that other than insurance, new plates, whatever. I wonder if he took pictures of his other plate, just the back plate, and not and of the front. I'm gonna play one more. That way y'all have a
Pitch
clear.
dark. The white car caught in these images obtained exclusively by Dateline, a car that had been captured on video for some 38 minutes on the streets around 1122 King Road in Moscow. had gone off camera and apparently parked nearby. Inside the car, police believe, the driver and a knife with a 7-inch blade, the Marine Corps Fighting K-Bar. What was going through the mind of the person carrying that knife? Dr. Brucato can only speculate, based toward 1122 King Road. The security camera on that neighboring house picked up sounds, including what police described in charging papers as distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud. Here are those sounds. A dog began to bark, as if something was wrong. Then multiple sources close to
That's disturbing on so many levels. I mean, that falling, that thud sounded like they landed on something and then landed on the floor. Isn't that creepy to y'all? Listening to that thud, and then all of a sudden the dog starts barking. So think about what I asked, and here's another question I'm going to leave you with. If you were Dylan, that dog started barking like that, would it be something new to you that that dog was barking like that? I mean, would you think something was wrong, or would you think that damn dog's barking again? That gets me every time I hear it. I mean, that just takes me out every time I hear it. You know, it is Murphy, because you and I did an experiment one night with a golden doodle, and I have that video in my emails too. It is a golden doodle. Oh, JB, you're probably right. He looks a little bow-legged to me, Al. You know, if you've seen Blood In, Blood Out, you know that's the reference to that. Um, that dog barking like that, it was loud. That was a loud bark. It sounded like a big dog, didn't it? Did it not sound like a big dog? It sounded like that dog was right there on that porch. What do you think? That is crazy. You did awesome on that other case. If you want to send me stuff in the email, Leslie, we can go over that the next time. I appreciate you, Leslie. I wasn't trying to be rude to you earlier. I just, you know, you know how I am. You've been here long enough. So, do you believe that that dog? It sounded like that dog was right there on that porch, did it not? Tabby says my doodle is 20 pounds and has a deep voice. Yeah, that's a good point, Jeff. A white Elantra speeding away minutes after that thud is suspicious as F. I'll take a picture of my license plate so I have it for meters and hotels. Yeah, that's what I was saying too. Thank you, Leslie. And Fair says 414, 417, you hear this block dropping sound, something like a block of wood dropping. Wow. I think whatever happened outside. I think he hit the dumpster. Jeff and I thought that he ran over the trash cans as he was turning around that corner. We really thought that. We spent a long time night talking about that. But that's an interesting thought. Open mind perspectives, it really is. I take a new one because I don't save the old pic. Okay. Weird that Dylan didn't mention the dog, or did she? And we haven't heard about it yet. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that we haven't heard about because it's kind of like this. If you're going to the Super Bowl, it's kind of like the preseason. You don't show all your good plays in the preseason. You just go with the very minimum, try to win the game, right? Well, right now we're in the preseason. Once we get to the season, you're going to see all the good plays from both sides. Yeah, I thought he slammed into the trash cans at the bottom because it went too fast. Yeah. Thank you, Leslie. I'll check that out. You know, we have talked about that, Jeff and I, because we were doing like um our late night investigation, we used to call it. Those trash cans were like right there around that turn. And we always said, well, what if he clipped the trash can and had some of the trash can paint on his Elantra? You get what I'm saying? Like he couldn't get that paint off. And we were laughing about it and we were carrying on and going on. But wouldn't that be interesting if he got some paint off one of those trash cans? Or better yet, if he got some white paint on the trash can? What do y'all think about that? Very true. Very true. I ran on furrow again on Dennis. I saw that today too, Jeff. I saw that. Remember seventh grade or something like that? I saw that skateboard thing. Um, and I thought about downloading that, but I was like, no, no. She could have just drowned it in her mind and she is used to the dog. Exactly. I saw pictures of law enforcement taking measurements and pictures of the ice and garbage cans. Yeah, Jeff and I were joking about that. We're like, well, what if he clipped the trash can? Because it does say in the PCA he intended on turning, but he pulled into the driveway, backed up, and then took off. But I don't think that was the last one, though. I don't think that was the last one. So only time will tell. Only time will tell. Well, y'all tell your people to come on over here. This is a good place to chat, good place to learn. You know, I enjoy all of you. Like I said, y'all make the chat run, not me. I just give the information, I ask the questions. Y'all give the answers, and y'all keep me accountable, which is what I like. I don't like to be spreading a bunch of old, outdated stuff if it's not true. You know, y'all help me stay accountable, and that makes for a better show. Let's see what you got to say. And then I got to get out of here. It couldn't happen during the turn because you don't see the car. So the car had to be much further ahead, hitting that dumpster on the side. Okay. Do you think he might have clipped the hydrant down there by that stop sign? You know, there's that stop sign right there, and there's the hydrant, and then there's the white car. How he gunned it. Do you think he could have clipped that hydrant at all? I don't know. It just food for thought. That's all it is. And for the record, I don't believe that was Maddie's jacket on the hydrant. Okay? Let's just put that to rest. Let's let Maddie rest in peace, and let's let that black jacket rest in peace. And let's not put it into the investigation or the fire hydrant. You know, let's let that black jacket just kind of slowly fade away. You know what I mean? I don't believe that was Maddie's jacket. I don't. It would have been interesting if it was her jacket, how it got there, but I don't believe it was her jacket. I don't believe that they pulled a knife out of the jacket. I don't believe that there were dead bodies in the bushes while the cops were there on Banfield investigating those 3 kids. I don't believe that there were little urchins coming out of the grass, dragging people into the cave. I don't believe any of that. You know what I mean? So I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I'm going to leave you with that because I can talk and talk and talk. What do I usually say? Let's see how observant you are. What's my last statement before I sign off? What do I usually say? Dun, dun. What do I usually say? What do I usually say? Can anybody guess it? Come on, if you're going to be in the chat, you got to learn what I say. There you go. Maestro. What else? Maestro. Be safe out there. Maestro. No, Maestro what? Maestro. Bye, Rondi. Cue that music. There you go. Maestro, cue that music. Y'all stay wonderful. Be safe out there. I'll see you soon.